Hello and welcome. My name is Eunice Mathis. I am the owner of Florida Training Academy, which is located right here in Jacksonville, Florida. Our website is fltraining.com. We provide fast and affordable CNA exam prep courses to those who are interested in challenging the CNA examination. And in this video, we're going to be discussing our CNA exam prep workbook, in which it covers the skills and also gives information about the actual state of Florida CNA exam. And so I will have the link to our book in the description area. Our workbook is great for educators. It's also great for students who, feel confident about passing a written examination and just want to hone in on those clinical skills. All right, so whenever you first open up your workbook, you're going to see our table of contents, and it goes over the various skills that are found on the Florida CNA examination. So you have 2 pages, page 2 and page 3, which will be the table of contents. Page 4, I'm just going to read over it. It says, Florida Training Academy, welcome and congratulations on your decision to attend our Certified Nursing Assistant Exam Preparation course. We specialize in preparing individuals for the written and clinical portions of the Florida CNA exam. The directors and staff of Florida Training Academy have spent a tremendous amount of time preparing this course to facilitate you in passing the state examination. So you have to be an active participant in order for you to pass this exam on the first attempt. We usually ask our students to study 3 skills per day, actually hands-on. Whenever they leave our program, they're going to go home and practice, and to also practice about 25 multiple choice written test questions per day. Attendance, we have 2-day courses. We no longer offer the 5-day courses, but we supplement our students' knowledge base by offering online resources. So whether it's the clinical skills videos and or the written test prep, our students are able to study, and we even show them how to download our app to their phone. All right, and so the next one was to keep the cell phones off during the class. We discussed our smoking and tobacco, any other policies. Physical and mental disabilities, our classes are geared toward those who are accelerated learners. There's nothing wrong with having a slower learner. We just can't have that during the 2-day course. So even on our website, it lets students know that they're going to be learning about 10 skills per day. And if they don't feel comfortable doing that in our 2-day accelerated CNA exam prep course, we recommend a longer training option for them. And then as far as completing this course successfully, as with almost everything, your success greatly depends on your motivation and effort. Students who are on time, pay attention, ask questions, and participate as expected should do well in the course. All right, page 5 talks about our Google resource page. So each of our students are given access to our private Google resource page. It just provides a little more information. It goes into the actual care of the elderly client, and also it discusses terminology, etc. So if you're a student with Florida Training Academy and you do not have access to that Google resource page, on one of the upcoming pages, it'll show you our email address. Just go to reach out to us. And so this is how you contact your course instructor. If you're an educator who purchased the workbook in order to help your students pass the test, I just simply recommend that you put a label over our contact information and our phone number, and then that way your students will be able to contact you directly. And yes, we even give our students our direct cell phone numbers, because usually if they have a question before their test, we don't want them calling the office. We want them to be able to contact their instructors directly to get those questions answered, so they have a better chance of passing on their first attempt. All right, so we talk about Florida. We talk about our social media sites, which of course we have YouTube, and then we also have Facebook. Job referrals versus job placement. We don't do job placement. And one of the reasons why is because in the past, when we had done so, the students wouldn't show up to the jobs that we had provided for them. So all we do now is job referrals. But anybody who's looking for a position who has a CNA license, they should not have an issue finding employment. It's just which job is going to work with your schedule. And so if you are looking for employment right now, on our Google resource page, we do have help for, we do help our students with their resumes. But then just try to go to Indeed.com. It's Indeed.com, and just type in nursing assistant, and hopefully you'll be able to find some positions for you. All right, so the course orientation, to give you a better idea of what to expect and assist you during your personal study time, the following is a course outline of the skills we will perform each day. The course will focus on demonstrating the proper technique of skills. Self-study and active participation are required in order for you to pass the Florida Certified Nursing Assistant examination. And so this is what we usually cover over our 2-day period. Our students are given an orientation, a video orientation, where they will learn how to register for the state of Florida Prometric CNA examination. We do background screenings in-house for our students and also for the public, but there's another company called Identigo, and we do have a website that we can, we have a video that we can actually provide to you in the description area, so that if you want to learn how to schedule your fingerprints and also your application or testing date, you'll be able to do so. Test site specific information we'll cover in the book. How to document a medical form. During our classes, we require all of our students to document, and half of those students are going to make a mistake. So it's at that point we show them how to also correct an error if they do make a mistake on a medical document. Hand washing, gloves, blood pressure, and weight. And the reason why that says discussion only, we'll tell you in a few more moments whenever you watch, whenever you continue watching in the video. Pulse, respirations, hand and nail care, foot care, mouth care, brush teeth, mouth care, denture care, aspiration precautions, review of practice questions. So during our 2-day class, our students also have to complete a practice examination. And then as you can see, the other skills. But yes, this is what our students learn over a 2-day period. And it seems like it's a lot to learn, but we make sure that the class is fun, it's always interactive. And at the end of the 2-day period, they feel like they have actually achieved and accomplished something. And 95% of our students pass their test on the first attempt if they complete our program and actually study. Right. So how to register for the examination. Currently, the Florida Prometric examination is $155. I have the website listed there on the screen. That website is also shown in our CNA exam prep workbook. And again, that description will be down below. Print scan, again, we do the fingerprints here at Florida Training Academy, but there is another company called Identigo that does the fingerprints throughout the entire state of Florida. Florida Department of Health, and the reason why I have that information there is because on the day that you take your test, you are given your pass or fail results. And if you have received a pass for your written and your clinical test, you're officially a CNA in the state of Florida. However, you do not have your license number. So usually our students will communicate with us. They'll let us know they passed their test, and we will just go to this website and look at their license. We will screenshot them an image of their license number so that they can update their resumes even before they actually receive the license in the mail. It takes about 2 weeks for the Florida Department of Health to send the license to the students, but by that point, they could have already interviewed and have been offered a job. Basic life support or CPR classes. We offer those at Florida Training Academy, and we also offer CPR and BLS instructor courses, but we give our students a discount if they attend our CNA course and then also register for the basic life support course. All right, so after you submit the application, and again, we have a whole video that talks about how to submit the application to Prometric. We ask that our students check their bank accounts in 3 business days to make sure the funds have been removed. Otherwise, without the funds, your application won't be processed. So it's really important that you just don't submit an application, but that you actually follow up. And then you want to also schedule your fingerprints. If you're not going to do it with Florida Training Academy, whatever live scan provider that you can use for your level 2 exam should be able to get the fingerprints and the background screening to Prometric and the Florida Board of Nursing. It's going to be electronically, so you won't leave with any documents. Instead, you're going to provide them with an ORI number, and the ORI number for the Florida Board of Nursing for the CNA exam is listed here. You provide that fingerprint company with the ORI number, and your fingerprints will then be routed to the correct department, which is the Florida Board of Nursing. All right. And then after that, I say do not wait for your admission letter to be emailed to you. We ask that our students pick up the phone and follow up on their test. And that's usually about 2 weeks after they have both their fingerprints and their application turned in. So once you've submitted all that stuff electronically, we actually want you to follow up on your test, because Prometric will not send you they won't send you a letter via mail. They're going to send you an email. And if that happens to go to your spam mail and you miss your test date, well, you're going to forfeit your fees. So we want you to be proactive. If you're taking the CNA exam prep course and you've paid for your CNA test and you've also completed your background screening, just go ahead 2 weeks later, be proactive, pick up the phone, call Prometric, numbers listed here, and just ask about your test date. No, they don't like when you do that, but I need for you to schedule your life around your test date, because again, if you forfeit your test date, which you have no control over what date they give you, you forfeit your fees and you have to pay again. Right, so the examination process, and you must have your social security number. You're going to put that on your actual application. And then this also goes over the regulations at the test site. I'm going to go now to page 10. What do you want to bring when you actually take your test? First of all, your test starts promptly at 9 a.m. So if you show up at 9 a.m., you're actually late. So we try to have our students trick their brains. The test starts at 8:30. We want them at the test site 30 minutes before their test. And then that way, if there's a traffic delay or something, they should still arrive to their test site before 9 a.m. So remember, your test doesn't start at 9. We need you to get there early. Your test starts at 8:30. The admission letter is going to be emailed to you, and you have to print that and bring it to Prometric. Identification required. You must have 2 valid pieces of identification, and one piece should be a current non-expired government issued card, such as your driver's license. It could be your military ID. It can even be your passport, but it must contain a current photo and signature that is eligible. And again, it cannot be expired. The name on the card must match exactly as to the name that you put on your application. So let's say that you, as a secondary ID, you bring your social security card or your birth certificate, but you've since married. And so the name that you have now doesn't match what's on your birth certificate. Therefore, you can't use that. So we ask our students to bring like their debit or their credit card, because that could be used as a secondary form of ID. In addition to that, they'll bring their driver's licenses. And as long as those names match what they've put on their application with Prometric for their CNA test, they should be allowed access and they can actually take their test. What to wear? You're going to wear a medical uniform, socks, athletic shoes, and I think they just changed the policy about masking. However, still bring a mask just in case, because we don't want there to be any issues when you go to take your test. This first paragraph beneath what to wear, it says candidates taking the clinical skills test are required to wear flat, non-skid closed-toe shoes. It is recommended a uniform or scrubs be worn on the day of testing. Candidates may also wear or bring a watch with a second hand. However, our students at Florida Training Academy are encouraged not to wear a watch because we want them to avoid possible recontamination during the hand washing skill. For example, if you wash your hands and you can't wash your wrist because your watch band is in the way, you put yourself in jeopardy of failing. Or if you raise your watch band in order to wash your wrist, and then when the watch returns to its normal position, well, then you've recontaminated that area. So the best thing to do is just to wear either a clip-on watch, or either keep the watch in your pocket. And during your test, you and your nurse can actually use the clocks on the wall as timepieces. All right, note the following. Electronic equipment is not permitted in the testing area. This includes cell phones. I know this is old, PDAs and pagers. You can't do any tape recorders. You're going to leave all of that stuff in your car. You cannot record anything. Pocket items such as your keys and wallet must remain in your pocket at all time. And other personal items, you can't bring your purses and your backpacks. They're usually not permitted in the testing area. However, I would recommend that you call, especially if you're catching a bus, that you call the testing center in advance to see if they maybe have a little cubby or a holding area so they can hold your items. All right, so while you're taking your exam, if you leave the testing room while an exam is in progress, you must sign out and sign in on a roster or you'll lose your exam time. You will not have access to any personal items during the break. You're not allowed to use any electronic devices or cell phones during the break. You also cannot have any guest visitors, children or family members. So when you're taking the test, this is serious. And also weapons are not allowed at the testing center. The clinical skills examination, the computer will randomly select 3 skills for you to perform during the clinical skills exam. Additional skills that will be tested will be the use of gloves and proper hand washing procedures. You will be given a minimum of 31 minutes up to a maximum of 41 minutes in order to perform your skills. At the completion of your examination, you and your partner will switch roles and they will perform their 3 skills. So it actually ends up being 5 skills. You have the 3 skills that are listed on your card, but then you also have to know that for at least one skill, you're gonna put on gloves, and then you also have to be checked off while you're washing your hands. So that's how it ends up being 5 skills total. This is important. A lot of students ask this question because you will be performing skills on each other. And this one states that if a skill involves nudity, the role of the resident is played by a medical mannequin. And yes, mannequin is spelled correctly there. Whenever we're talking about a non-store, non-retail mannequin, we're talking about a training mannequin. It's spelled M-A-N-I-K-I-N. All right, so that was information about the written examination, the clinical examination, the written test. The written test is taken on a computer, and even though it's called a written test, it is computerized. The written test is taken on a computer and consists of 60 multiple choice questions that evaluate your overall knowledge and skills in providing safe and competent care. The test is 50 scored items and 10 unscored items used for statistical analysis. You will have 90 minutes to complete the test. And so whenever you're taking your test, you're answering those 60 questions, you won't know the 50 that are weighed from the 10 that don't have any bearing on your test results. And those are just going to be used for statistical purposes to see if they can add those to the CNA exam bank in the future. Once you pass and or fail, preferably pass, the clinical and the written test, you're going to receive documents, and the documents will let you know, not necessarily a score. It's going to say pass or fail, but if there are some areas for improvement, such as maybe you did not adhere to the standard precautions while you're performing skills, maybe linens were touching you, you're going to receive a mark off in that area. If you maybe didn't lower the bed all the way, or if you did not give the resident the call bell at the conclusion of your skill, well, then that could put you at risk of failing, because that, of course, would be a safety issue. If someone has English as a second language, and or if they have some inabilities as far as if they have some difficulties reading, there's also an audio test option whenever you're taking the Florida CNA examination. Okay. So advice to help you pass the written examination: take the written exam seriously and study for the written exam as well as the clinical test. Practice exam questions nightly and look up unfamiliar medical terms. Do not change your answers. Always select the option that will be the safest for you and those in your care. Avoid answers with words such as always and never. Remember, healthcare is individualized, and we rarely take a one-size-fits-all approach to patient care. Know the role of the nursing assistant. You are not the nurse. Notify the nurse in case of an emergency or if there are changes in the patient's condition. Learn how to prioritize care. Taking the resident's vital signs may be more of a priority than giving someone a bath or keeping them comfortable during an emergency situation, for example, a recent fall. Taking the vital signs first, and then once the resident is stable, you can give them a bath. Don't forget to document. If you do not document your findings, you have no proof to support that you provide the care. We also request our students to develop a study plan, and that's when we have them practice a few skills and review a few questions daily. If you have testing anxiety, we ask that you research videos on how to reduce testing anxiety and how to improve focus and confidence. One of the best ways to build your confidence is to keep practicing. And when you're practicing your skills, you also want to communicate with, the partner, even if the partner is a teddy bear. You want to communicate, and that way, whenever you're in front of your nurses at the test site who will be evaluating you, you'll be more comfortable speaking. And even though I don't have it written here, one of the things I do have our students write in this area is don't forget to wash your hands. If our students fail the CNA examination, it's normally because of hand washing and or they got nervous because they know the skills. It's just a matter of actually executing them when you have multiple people watching you. All right, and so our clinical skills practice, we usually go ahead and do our introduction and greeting. We have our students practice the steps. And then our indirect care measures, as they're performing the skills, they need to be mindful of the standard precaution and infection control measures. Also, the resident's rights to comfort, privacy, and safety must be maintained throughout the procedure or the skills. And so we talked about standard precautions. Of course, we have to wash those hands. At the test site, they will not have hand sanitizer. So you do want to encourage your students, and or if you are going to be a test taker, you must wash your hands. And those infection control measures, try to keep things from touching your uniform. And when you're making the bed, try to keep your legs off of the bed. Promoting resident comfort. So even if your patient is nonverbal, for example, whenever you're providing care to a mannequin at the test site, you still want to be asking the resident if they're in any pain. Remember, hearing is the last sense that leaves. So if the person can't respond to you because maybe they're trached, you should be still looking for grimacing or, some other signs that the person could be experiencing pain. At the test site, if you ask the mannequin a question, the nurse will respond on behalf of the mannequin. So again, just because you have a mannequin skill does not mean that you get to perform the skill in silence the entire time. Promoting residents' rights. Residents do have rights. They need to be able to participate and decide what they want to wear, what they want to eat, how they want their hairstyle, etc. And remember, no two people are alike. So whenever you're performing skills, even though you may have an order to do a skill, remember that a resident has a right to refuse the skill. And so you do want to encourage them to participate. And if for some reason at the test site, no one's going to refuse, but in the real world, promoting residents' rights. If a resident does refuse a skill, you can ask them why. And then, of course, go ahead and notify the nurse. And we touched on this briefly before. You want to promote resident safety whenever you're performing your skills. And providing a resident with a call bell before leaving their bedside will help to prevent a person from getting out of bed without help. Placing a bedside table near the resident with a cup of water may also prevent a fall or injury to a resident because he or she does not have to get up and walk across the room in order to get a drink. Another example is to make sure that if you elevate the bed to perform a skill, you also lower the bed when the skill is complete. Lastly, never leave a resident who is at risk of injury alone. Stay with the resident and call for help while you're with the resident. And then we also have our students practice their exiting skills. So we have them, even before we do any of the other skills, we want to get them to actually communicate and talk and verbalize. And then some other skills that we usually perform before our first break would be hand washing, and we have them perform gloving. And I do want to talk about some of the other aspects of the test. Of course, we have our skills. Again, we have 60 questions, multiple choice. And we don't know the pass or the fail. You just answer as many questions as you can correctly, and you're going to have you're going to be better prepared if you practice questions. We have a lot of free resources on our Florida Training Academy YouTube site. And so you can go on there, you can listen to some practice questions. And if you need more and you're a student with Florida Training Academy, of course, we have our private Google resource page. As far as your skills, once you purchase the exam prep manual, you'll be able to see all the skills listed. And right now, you don't have to perform blood pressure. You also don't have to perform weight. And if you think about it, just with technology, usually those things are done, with equipment, whether it's your Dynamap or your, so you're not really going to be at the bedside performing a manual blood pressure. And I know a lot of people are disappointed about that, but in most of your healthcare settings, your nurses do the manual blood pressure. So the CNA would just put the automated cuff on, and then if the number's abnormal, repeat that. And then if the number's still abnormal, they will notify the nurse. And with your weight, I say in the exam prep book, we'll talk about some of the populations that will need to be weighed daily, such as those with congestive heart failure and those with renal failure. But you have to zero the scale before you put the person on the scale. And then the best weights are usually taken first thing in the morning after your patient has voided. And so this is just a pretty brief overview of what you should be expecting when you go to take your test. Again, my name is Eunice Mathis with Florida Training Academy. I wish you all much success. Remember that CNAs help to save lives. If you are a CNA, please share this video with others, because I know that you remember how stressful a CNA examination was. And this is going to be the first step for many of you all before you actually enter into the nursing program. So again, I love my nursing, my CNA babies. Wish you much success. Our website is fltraining.com, and there will be a link to our CNA exam prep book in the description area. Have a great day. Bye-bye.